Good morning. Today we are working on CO2. I can write rational numbers as both fractions and decimals. So it's going to be the same number and it's the same amount. And we can represent that amount as a fraction and we can represent it as a decimal. In addition to knowing the categories of our number system, it is also important to be able to write values in various ways. For example, sometimes a value is better understood as a decimal when you're dealing with money. It's $2.75. We use that decimal to show the cents. Instead of, oh my, look at this fraction that we would have for our money. I'm trying to get my money out of my wallet and I see 11/4. I'm going to look at that and look at my money and say, I don't know what 11/4 is in money. So sometimes we really want it as a decimal, and sometimes it makes more sense to have it as a fraction. Needing 3/8 of a cup of sugar instead of 0.375 cup of sugar. So 3,077. I can't. My brain is going too fast because I'm trying to do this quickly so we don't have homework. Look at this decimal. 375 thousandths. I just had to complete my thought. 375 thousandths. When I'm baking, I don't have a cup in my drawer that says 375 thousandths. I could use my eighths. I have an eighth of a cup and I would use that 3 times. That's simple and easy. I don't want to have to try to figure out decimal points when I'm baking. Just like when I'm using money, I don't want to have to try to figure out fractions. So there are different times that it makes more sense to use a fraction or a decimal. So we need to convert. To convert, so remember we are all writing this. To convert is to write a value a different way. $11/4 is the exact same amount of money as $2.75. It's the same amount of money, it's just one is easier to use. So it's the same value, we're just writing it differently. Integers and fractions, integers, 2 fractions, and decimals. An integer defined as a non-fraction and non-decimal, because that's what an integer is, right? Positive or negative, but no fraction, no decimal, can still be written as a fraction and decimal by writing the integer as the numerator over a denominator of 1, or writing the integer with a decimal point followed by a 0. So if we have 4 is our integer, we can write that. Peyton, I hope you're following along. As I'm writing, 4 is our integer. We can write it as a fraction by putting it over 1. So 4 over 1 is the same as saying 4 wholes. That's how we make our integer into a fraction. We can make that integer into a decimal by putting a 0 in the tens place. They all represent the exact same value. They all represent 4. 4 over 1, 4 with 0 tenths, they're all 4. Fraction to decimal, write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. The numerator is the decimal. So if we have 4/5, we want to make our denominator 100. How do I figure out my numerator, Grace?
You times the numerator and the denominator by 20.
Yeah, 5 times 20 gives us 100. So I have to do 4 times 20, which is 80. So now I have 80 hundredths. Oh, listen to how I said that. Instead of saying 80 over 100, it's 80 hundredths. Do I know how to write 80 hundredths as a decimal? Matted?
0.80.
Yep. That's 80 hundredths, because I go out to my hundredths place. What if I have 1 and 1/4? Oh, I just threw an added step in there. What do I have to do, Jude?
You have to make so it'd be 5/4.
I have to turn that improper fraction, I have to turn that mixed number into an improper fraction. So 1 and 1/4 is the same as saying 5/4. Now what do I do?
Then you would multiply, or you would change it into, so then the denominator is 100,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be,
What did I multiply the 4 by? Of what?
25.
25. So if I multiply 4 by 25, now I need to do 5 times 25, which would be what? Kaylin?
125.
125. So I have 125 hundredths. How do I turn that into a decimal? 125 hundredths. Lauren?
1.25.
Because I have that 125, but it's hundredths. So that means my 5 has to be in the hundredth place, that hundredth decimal place. So in order for that 5 to be in the hundredth decimal place, my decimal has to go between the 1 and the 2. So now I can see that that is in the hundredth place. 125 is bigger than 100, so I'm going to have a whole number in there. Because 125 is bigger than 100, I know that if I'm only going to the hundredth place, I'm going to have a whole number. Yes.
Also, that we started with 1/4. That's bigger than.
The 1 1/4 tells me that 1 is going to go in the ones place. Very good, Henry. So when we have a whole number here, we know it's going to be to the left of our decimal place. Just the fraction is going to be to the right of the decimal. Any questions on converting fractions to decimals? I'm going to erase so I can scroll up. Decimals to fractions. So with the decimal out to the hundredth place, write the decimal as a numerator of a fraction with a denominator of 100. So here's what that looks like. 36 hundredths. What would that look like as a fraction? Claire? 36 over 100. Am I done? Oh, I'm not done, is it? Always simplify. What can I divide out of 36 and 100, Christian? 2. I can divide a 2 out. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Am I done?
No.
No. What else can I divide out? Jude?
You can divide by 2 again.
I can divide by another 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Am I done?
No. Wait. Yes.
Show me your thumbs. Am I done or not done? Thumbs up. I am done. I cannot divide anything more out. Some of us looked at 36 hundredths and we said, what is a different number I could divide it by? Rami. I could also just have said 36 divided by 4 gives me 9/25. Same answer. Is it okay that I divided by 2 and then divided by 2? Yeah. Sometimes we get that greatest common factor right away. Sometimes we see the 4 immediately. Sometimes we don't, and we know, oh, they're whole numbers, I can divide by 2. Oh, I can still divide by 2. I can still get smaller. Sometimes you get lucky and you get that greatest common factor. Sometimes you have to do 2 and 2. Sometimes we just jump right to the 4. We get the same answer either way. always double check, can I simplify any more? Thank you to my friends who are not trying to work on any work right now. We are just following along and paying attention. Next section, you will not be able to use a calculator on this section of the test. So when it comes to test time, no calculator for this part. But you can check your answer doing our homework. You can check your answer by not using a calculator. You can check your answer on the test. You can check your answer on your homework by calculating the fraction. So 3/5 is the same as 3 divided by 5. And making sure the resulting decimal matches your decimal answer. So I was right the first time I said it, I just didn't read the whole sentence. On our homework, you can check your answer with a calculator. Fractions, you take your numerator. That fraction bar means divide by your denominator. So on our homework, you can use the calculator to check the answer. Does that mean that we just use our calculator for the whole thing? No, because on the test, you will not have a calculator for that part. So on the homework, do not use your calculator to come up with your answer. We only use the calculator to check it. We have to show our work. You have to show 3 divided by 5. So let's see how we do our work for today. Convert integers to a fraction and decimal. If it is a decimal, you're going to convert it to a fraction. If it's a fraction, you're going to show a decimal. Show your work. So, if it's an integer, 18 is an integer, right? I need to show it as a fraction and as a decimal. How do I show 18 as a fraction and a decimal? Grace?
Show it as a fraction, you just do 18.
And how do I show it as a decimal, Damien?
Do 18.0.
Very good. That easy for the integers. Now we have a fraction. If it's a fraction, I need to show it as a decimal. 3/4. How do I show that as a decimal? Some of these fractions we might know already, and so we can just do a little mental math. What is the decimal for 3/4? Adeze?
0.75.
Yeah. 3/4 is 0.75. But remember, we have to show our work. So if it's an easy one like that, I'll say, yeah, I knew 3/4 was 0.75. So we don't have to show our work on that if you already know it. If you don't know it, what math do we have to do? Jude?
You'd have to make the 4 to 100, and that would be 25. And then you have to multiply the 3 by 25.
So if we're multiplying both sides by 25, I'm showing that's how I got my 75. Okay? Now I have 19/20ths. How do I make that a decimal? Olivia?
Turn the 20 into 100 by multiplying it by 5, and then multiply the 19 by 5, and then you'll get 95 over 100, and then you'll do 0.95.
Do I need to show my work?
Yes.
Yes. I do not want to see just answers. If you show me just answers, you do not get credit for it. I want to see the work. I want to see this. So down here, I want to see the work on how we do that. Okay, some of it we might know, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. Just tell me what you're multiplying by so I know what you're getting the answer to be. Does that make sense? Do not use your calculator, but you can check when you're all done to make sure you did it correctly. But do not use your calculator on this homework, because on the test you will not use your calculator. And then at the bottom, match each fraction to its decimal value. So we know we have to go to fractions into decimals, put it to 100, figure out what the decimal is going to be. Here, your decimal to the fraction, put them over 100, figure out what it's going to be. I see a lot of improper fractions because we've got all those whole numbers, so really think through what that's going to look like. Any questions for our math for today? Okay, we have a couple minutes to work quietly. For those of us watching at home, I hope you are well and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you soon.